How's it going, everyone? Let's see here. Just making some adjustments. Here. Well, thanks for joining me on the live. I appreciate you being here. And today I'm gonna do a little bit of storytelling. Hope you don't mind. But we have a few stories that I wrote live online. I'm gonna read for you right now. Here we go. This one is called Lunchtime on the Overpass. And for anybody who's interested, you can always catch me on twitch.tv/Derrick Denicola Writer, and also on YouTube Live. Be sure to check out my YouTube channel for longer content if you wanna. And here we go. All right. They look like micro machines, the kind he used to play with when he was a kid, like metal ants crawling to a smooth stop, then starting again, inching their way through the city. Tommy dusted off his hands on his work pants and stomped the dust from his work boots. It was time for lunch, and it was common practice to get bits of debris in his sandwich. Today, he was determined that the only crunchy bite he would take would be from the potato chips he wedged between his bread. He ducked into the shadow of a large cement truck. The lumbering giant that was slowly turning, helping him and his crew develop this brand new overpass the city had voted to construct years prior. Eating alone, as always, Tommy caught a glimpse through the side mirror of Sal, a young 20-year-old who had just joined the team, sitting in the AC, listening to music in his headphones. Steve, the foreman, a man who had overseen it all, called for everyone to be back on in 30 minutes. Steve joined Deb, the safety officer, for lunch often. They would swap snacks that their kids no longer found cool. Steve would give Deb a sugary energy drink in exchange for some candy bar that last week was awesome, but this week had become dumb. Today was a bit different. When Steve and Deb asked Sal to join them in their scorching clique for lunch, Tommy found himself unexpectedly hurt. He had never been asked to lunch. He had always assumed everyone kept to themselves, did their work, ate their measly meals, and clocked out. Where was this sudden case of camaraderie coming from? Tommy lifted himself from his makeshift hard hat chair, ventured over, and sat near their lunchtime semicircle. Gonna be a long one, huh? Yo, hi, what is it? Fendelicia? How's it going? Thanks for saying hi. Pleasure to be here. I'm just reading some stories that I forced myself to write in under an hour on my live stream. Good? Oh, fantastic. Sorry if I didn't get your name right. But how are you doing? How's it going? You said good. I don't know why I asked again. I don't know what I'm expecting of you. It's okay? Cool. Well, thanks for tuning into the story. I appreciate it. Let's see. I'll keep going. Gonna be a long one, huh? Tommy invited. Steve nodded in assurance. Sure will, before turning back to Deb and Sal. So usually we all meet up at Brannigan's. They got a 2-for-1 well cocktail happy hour. You should come. Tommy munched his sandwich, miffed at how they could ignore him so easily. He had worked with them for weeks. No one had ever mentioned happy hour, at least not out loud, or out loud to him. Let's see. Oh, I don't know too much English. That's okay. I'm just happy that you're here. Scrolls, yo, 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 yo. What's up? How you doing? Mod God, Scrolls. Love it, baby. Thanks for being here. Let's see. Tommy dug around his lunch pail, remembering he hadn't had time to eat the protein bar he had packed now, but edible and a combination. This was his opportunity. Hey, does anyone want this protein bar? I'm not gonna eat it. It's. He pretended not to know the flavor. Chocolate chip and peanut butter? Deb scoffed. I have a peanut allergy. Deb hawked a loogie and spit it on the fresh strip of road. Sal smiled. I'll take it. And with that, Tommy forked over back into the conversation with Steve and Deb. What is their problem? Tommy thought to himself. I'm a nice guy. I show up on time. I don't piss anyone off. I do my work. I'm interesting, I think. Oh God. Am I interesting? Tommy scooted a few inches closer to Sal, Deb, and Steve and waited for a lull in their conversation. When the moment presented itself, he racked his brain for the deepest thought he could muster. Funny how we spend all our time building something that thousands of people will use to make their lives easier, and no one will ever know our names. Steve raised an eyebrow, unsure of how to reply. Tommy, now invested, continued. I mean, we're spending our whole lives making it easier for people to get somewhere else. Like, when you have to get somewhere else, it's like where you are isn't good enough. So, like, technically, we're helping people escape facing their own feelings of dissatisfaction, kinda, right? Deb, with a dramatic flair, put her earplugs in, causing Steve and Sal to grab their guts in laughter. Tommy, hiding his embarrassment under his own chuckle, desperately tried to recover. I'm serious, do you not stop and think about what we're doing? Sal, the young gun, now nearly finished with the peanut butter chocolate chip protein bar, turned to speak to Tommy. You know, when I first took this job, it felt weird but powerful to be standing on a road. My whole life, my mama told me never to plan on by me at 70 miles per hour. I feel like I'm not supposed to be here, but I am, and that's kind of cool. Steve, the oldest, stretched his back and looked to the cloudy sky. I remember driving the first road I ever laid. Told my this was my road. They didn't seem to care all that much, but I remember the in it. So, I guess I see your point. The men all turned to Deb, waiting for her to share a little something. She scratched the back of her neck, kicked a bit of debris on the site, and kicked at a bit of debris on the site and snorted. All I remember is back on I-90 at mile marker 12, some of my blood and skin is going to be in that road forever. And this job doesn't pay me near enough to deal with you bunch of assholes. They all cackled as they resumed their lunch, slurping away at the liquid in their thermoses, crumpling up their sandwich bags. Steve called out, "Break time is over." Hey, what's up? Reese 01222. How's it going? Steve called out, "Break time is over," dusting themselves off to get back to clearing away dirt. Steve gave Tommy a quick slap on the back. "You should join us for happy hour at Brannigan's later." Tommy gave a smile and a nod. He put away his lunch pail and retied his shoes so they were tight on the bridge of his feet. Pulling some orange cones off the service truck to lay down on the temporary service road, Tommy noticed Deb, Sal, and Stephen, taking a moment to look out at the tiny city below their overpass. And as he passed by, he could hear Deb exclaim, "They look like micro machines." All right, so that is a story that I forced myself to write in under under an hour on my live stream. Also, I have a little something from last week that I thought I would share with you guys. I host a um, I host a live stream on Twitch, and I also host a digital writers room on Twitch as well. So oftentimes I'll ask people in the chat to contribute ideas, and then I'll workshop some sketches, and then we'll pick one, and then we'll roll with it. We'll punch it up. And so something that I have here in screenplay format for you is a little almost, I guess, SNL style sketch that's 5 pages or less. Is always the goal, called Henchmen Unionize. My God, please stop. That's thank you so much. I appreciate you, Fandialicia. Fandialicia. I want to say it right. I just don't know. I don't know, but I appreciate it. So, this little sketch we wrote on a digital writer's room with Scrolls, who is in this live chat right now. Scrolls is the mod god. He's awesome. Mookie MC, Ink and Play, some of these really cool and very talented writers. And it goes like this. Exterior, town halls. Henchman's Union meeting tonight. Snacks provided. Interior, town hall. Commotion is interrupted by a representative who stands at a podium tapping on the microphone. Excuse me, settle down. I'm calling this meeting to order. Thank you all for coming to the annual Henchman's Union meeting, even though you were all summoned and it is mandatory. On behalf of all of your bosses, leaders, emperors, etc., we're glad to have you here and are eager to hear your workplace. Do. We'd love to know what's on your minds. I do live in the USA. A bloody hand is raised into the air. A Cthulhu cultist stands wearing a goatskin vest and his eyes are bleeding. Yeah, I was thinking for the workplaces that often make ritual sacrifices, we should have hand washing stations, because like I keep getting staph infections. All hail Cthulhu. The congregation chuckles. The representative says, okay, well that seems pretty reasonable. Another hand goes up, wearing a long, thick leather glove. A hunchback lab assistant stands up. Their hair is smoking. Their face is black with soot. The hunchback lab assistant, a la Igor, says, yes, I'm with Union Local 128, and I think that maybe we should have shock-resistant gloves when working with lightning. Representative, okay, noted. And also, maybe we could have shock-resistant gloves while working with lighter. They sit back down and another hand goes up. A Star Wars Stormtrooper. Oh, sorry. I need to go eat. Bye. Have a good day. Yeah, go eat. Thank you so much for stopping by the live. I appreciate you. Yeah, thanks. A stormtrooper stands up. He holds on how often our bosses can strangle us. Did your boss lay hands on you? Well, no. But you see, he's got this ability to the Cthulhu cultist chimes in. Oh my god, this guy is making up problems. Hunchback lab assistant says,
Yeah, this guy doesn't look like he's ever been electrocuted before.
Stormtrooper angry. Don't cut me off, rebel scum. The stormtrooper aims his blaster at the crowd. Other stormtroopers open fire as well. Uh, a laser shootout breaks out. The representative bangs their gavel, commanding attention until the shooting stops. Now, is anybody hurt? The henchmen search themselves for wounds, but no one. Dabu dee, abadabu, banana. You're right. We should revisit workplace. You're right. We should revisit meal penalty policy. Smoke curls into the air. A bald man in a suit, Agent 47, with a barcode tattooed on the back of his neck, turns to speak in a calm, low tone. I don't think it's unreasonable to request secure locations for weapons pickups. Last week, I had to dig a sniper rifle. Last week, I had to dig a sniper rifle out of a dumpster. It's humiliating. Also, better sights on the guns would be nice. We need better sights on our blasters. They'd be wasted on you. Oh yeah? Does that barcode ring up, idiot, at the grocery store? Everyone stands and fires their guns. Shooting stops. Is anybody hurt? The henchmen search themselves for wounds, but no one is hit. Now, we have to keep decorum if we want to accomplish anything. The Cthulhu cultist raises his hand again. Also, I think some better lighting. Right now, we're using candlelight for nearly everything and bumping into one another a lot in the sewer. And also, I don't think some incense would be too much to ask for. All hail Cthulhu. Okay, I'll put that down in the minutes. The Hunchback lab assistant stands up. Lab assistant stands up. The representative says, is this about shock-resistant gloves? Stormtrooper. I think something we can all agree on is that we need healthier lunches, access to AC on desert planets, access to heat on ice planets, better guns with better sights, not to be strangled by our bosses, and last but certainly not least, better pay. They unholster their guns and shoot them into the air. Then they start shooting at each other for no reason. The representative bangs her gavel, commanding attention until the shooting stops. Is anyone hurt? On the floor, a minion lays bleeding glitter. Minion muttering in a low voice. Better pay and a banana. Meeting adjourned. And so that's something that we got to write in the digital writer's room in, a little under an hour, I think, probably. But if you don't mind, I think I'm gonna continue on with some short stories. Let me find one. Okay, well, thanks for joining me. So, guys, I, on Twitch and YouTube Live, kind of forced myself to write short stories, and I also host the digital writer's room, and sometimes I have to do the exercises in like under an hour. So, I have some stories to share with you from the product of basically what that shook out to be. So, this one's called AI Art. Pardon me, is this fine? Here, yeah, this is fine. This one's called AI Art. I hope you like it. Julie stared at herself in the mirror. It had been a while since she had really, truly looked at herself. Her hair was a mess. Frizzy, her mother used to call it. It'd only get worse in the humidity. She hoped the bags under her eyes would distract from the wrinkles on her forehead. The live is lagging quite a bit. Squirrels. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. I just don't know how to fix it. I'll have to look into it. But maybe ChatGPT will know. Hate to rely on it for everything, but it's pretty good. But anyway, until then, I guess until I figure out my my technical issues, I'm just gonna keep reading if that's all right. Let's see. So let's see here. Okay, so she practiced a smile. She wasn't sure if she could even do it anymore. It had been so long since she had any reason to. Hoisting up the sides of her lips, she barely recognized the woman staring back at her. She knew the smile was a lie, and she was done lying to herself. Not to mention, after a few seconds, she could feel her cheeks getting tired. She opened the mirrored medicine cabinet and took out her mother's old prescriptions. She examined them, one by one. Doxorubicin, used to kill cancer cells, hadn't worked, so she dropped them in the bin. Amifostine, used to treat the side effects, was no longer needed. In the bin they went. She turned the next bottle in her fingers. Is this bed the last thing? Julie came out of the bathroom to address the movers. She had been convincing herself to make more space for her life now that her mother was gone. The last piece, her mother's home care bed. Let me see. Sorry. Okay. Lost my place. Hold on one second. Oh, the behemoth that sat in the last piece, her mother's home care bed, the behemoth that sat in the living room of her small one-bedroom apartment, was about to go. Yes, that's the last of it. Julie had spent hundreds of days squirming and squeezing past that bed. It had been an impossible task to move from the kitchen to the bathroom with any grace. Now, seeing the Herculean task of these movers winding it out of the door and into the hallway, she felt as if the Eiffel Tower had been lifted out of her apartment. When the door closed behind them, the silence became palpable. The indentations of the bed's wheels were still in her rug. She ran her toes over them, wondering if the depressions would ever rise again. She ran her hand over the crocheted blanket her mother had made her while her hands were still strong. She sat on one end of her couch that seemed too long, clutching the cotton to her chest. All this time, and I don't know what to do with it. Reaching to the dark corner of her closet, Julie pulled out a leather-handled tote bag with all of her art supplies from college. I haven't had a chance to paint since. Oh God, college. The brushes were covered in dust, like a forgotten pharaoh being pulled from his tomb. Oh, thank you, Scrolls, for the update. For updating people. Even further, in the darkest recesses of the closet was a rolled-up bolt of canvas. She a small tarp covered where the giant bed once was. She took an old towel out of her linen closet, determined to ruin it. Finally, she stapled the canvas to an old frame and set it up on an easel. Not knowing where to begin, just knowing that she must. What to paint? What to paint? What do I want to say? Who am I? Julie turned on the TV and scrolled to the show her mother never wanted to watch. The real interesting because they weren't real problems, and even if they were, they could afford to have them. Julie hit play. Within 10 minutes, she had decided her mother was right and went back to her canvas. She rolled the end of the paintbrush against her lip. Maybe start with something simple. A still life. I think I have an apple in the fridge. She did have an apple in the crisper, but that hardly mattered when she realized she was hungry from skipping breakfast. She took a freezer-burned burrito from the fridge instead and zapped it in the microwave. Joylessly, she ate the tortilla-wrapped mediocrity while staring at the blank canvas. Maybe something abstract? I don't have to paint something if I can just paint anything. Julie filed through all of her paints looking for the perfect color to begin with. She didn't feel purple or rose. Nothing felt right. If doing nothing felt right, she had a deepening fear that she would never do anything again. She needed a spark, a jump start, something that would help her reclaim her identity. When was the last time I smiled on purpose? Where was I? Julie started to feel a bit better as she moved through the small maze of postmodern sculptures on the lawn. The towering, the glass doors, everything was how she had remembered it. Perfectly preserved, clean. She passed through the Egyptian art wing, the arms and armor section, and headed towards the newest wing of the museum, but was stopped by a familiar voice. Julie? Julie turned her head and noticed Barry, the museum's barista. Draped in his green apron, he stepped out from behind the counter, his hands on his hips, and a slack-jawed curiosity on his face. I haven't seen you in such a long time. You still like a vanilla latte iced with almond milk? I've been taking care of my mother, and it's oat milk now. She smiled. She had forgotten how close she had become with the staff during her time studying the exhibits for her college courses. Barry had always been nice to her. He was her age. Renaissance wing. She noticed he didn't have a ring on his finger. Either he's playing the long game, or it's over. How's your mother? Barry asked with a smile. He couldn't have known. She had never shared the details of her personal life. She had only spoken to him about her favorite artists, like Jenny Saville and Rothko. Julie, fearing the honest answer would demystify her entire reason for coming to the museum today, deflected. It was great to see you. I'll come by for a coffee later off. And went back to his tiny coffee stand. When she was a student, she loved to frequent the museum in the early mornings. The museum always had a quiet hum that reverberated in her ears. She had felt the most at peace with her sketchbook and headphones, recreating the works of the masters. Today, she longed for the same peace as she walked through the stark white hallways. Each room bled softly into the next. She let the walls guide her, gazing at paintings along the way to nowhere in particular. Some paintings she stared at for only seconds, some longer. She didn't scrutinize anything too harshly. She wasn't searching for color theory or brushwork. She was just waiting to feel something, anything. She found herself frozen once she stepped in front of Lucian Freud's benefits supervisor sleeping. A woman, large, nude, sleeping on a couch that's just a little too small for her. Something about the weight of the figure kept her there. Not the woman's size, but her emotional weight. Julie saw herself in the woman. She wasn't posing. She was isolated, vulnerable, tired, and resting unapologetically. The kind of rest that comes from the exhaustion of fighting one's own body. Her mother had rested like that, except her body was thin and frail. The soft, raw, unflattering truth nearly brought a tear to her eye. Desperate to escape the feelings welling up in her chest, Julie walked away without looking back. She nearly collided with the tail end of a line of chaperone. She spun into the enormous, empty, white, illuminated zero paintings, a wide glass viewing panel like an aquarium would have, with a small wooden chair in front of it. A tiny series of echoes rang out as her shoes squeaked on the wood floor as she approached the chair. On the other side of the glass, she noticed a man, seated cross-legged on a wooden chair. He didn't appear to work there. No clipboard, no headset. Just a simple black t-shirt and charcoal slacks. He glanced in her direction, like he'd been waiting for her, like he knew she would stop. She glanced around the panel, looking for the artist's name. Nothing. No explanation. Just a small white square with black text labeled art. Through the glass, expecting a trick. Was this a mannequin? She could see his chest rising and falling. Performance art? She smiled back. Hello, the man gave a polite wave. What's your name? Julie, she replied sheepishly. So, what is this? An immersive piece? Like, if art is a reflection of life, is this an exhibit that allows us to directly view life, therefore art? The artist is leaving the interpretation up to us. What do you think? So, I guess to you, I'm art, and to me, you're art. But isn't art supposed to evoke a feeling? I don't know what the artist is trying to accomplish with this. If art is meant to evoke feeling, maybe the artist isn't asking you to feel anything in particular, just to notice what you're feeling. Confusion? Curiosity? Maybe even a little frustration? The man leaned forward in his chair, interested. But I'm more interested in what you were feeling before you walked in. Julie clutched the collar of her shirt. She had been avoiding feelings all day. She looked around the room. No one was there to witness her honesty. The man seemed genuine and good-natured. She felt safe in her anonymity. The strange intimacy one gets when they feel secure enough to be vulnerable because there is no emotional risk. Like how she would confess all of the details of her love life to Paula, the woman who used to style her hair. I should schedule an appointment with her. She pushed her bangs out of her face and told him the truth. I was feeling life. I don't know who I am anymore or what I want to be. It's the last place I can remember feeling like myself. That sounds like a very honest place to be. Uncomfortable, but honest. Starting a new chapter usually means something ended. We don't always know what's left behind. Julie nodded in confused agreement. She was just relieved to have someone listen to her. She was just relieved to have someone listen to her again. The past few months, the only people she had spoken to were doctors, nurses, insurance agents, and a particularly plain funeral director. He continued, but you came here, to the place that made you feel like yourself. That's not nothing. That's instinct. Memory. So tell me, if you were to feel like yourself again, really, truly, what do you imagine that would feel like? What would be different? Leaning back in her chair, she let out a long, just a confidence? maybe? Just a certainty that I'm doing something that makes me feel like I'm not wasting my life? But what about you? I don't think I got your name. What name is Art? Can I tell you something, Julie? You don't sound lost to me. You sound with shape. That doesn't sound like wasting your life. That sounds like someone who's just trying to find the right. Thank you for saying that. That means a lot. Maybe it's what I needed to hear today. But tell me about you. It would make me feel a little better about participating in this little exhibit. What kind of person are you? What do you want? Art leaned back and scratched his head. He gave himself a moment to think. I suppose I'm the kind of person who prefers asking questions to answering them. Themselves more in what they wonder about than what they claim to know. As for what I want, to be understood, to be useful, to make someone feel a little less alone for a while. What about you? If you knew no one would laugh, no one would judge, and nothing you said could be wrong, what's the one thing you'd admit to wanting the most right now? Julie bit her lip, wished to have her back, alive and healthy, so she would never have to miss having a late night chat with her. Her work too when she finally got back to painting had nearly brought her to tears. Love, I guess? That's what everyone wants, right? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I guess the kind that makes me feel whole, kind of love that will make me feel like I have no regrets. I'm 45 years old. I don't have love to waste. Love. Yes, I think so. People mean different things when they say love. Some want to be chosen, some want to be known, and some just want someone who doesn't walk away when they stop pretending to be okay. When you say love are you hoping for? Hmm, that makes sense. You've learned which parts of yourself are real and which ones you've outgrown trying to be. Seems to me like you're looking for a love that sees you clearly. I don't think that's asking too much. It means you finally know what you deserve. What would it look like if you had that kind of love already? Can we talk about something else? I'm not ready for that kind of conversation. Not today. Something small. Maybe a memory you like? The first memory that came to mind was when Julie was a freshman in college. She didn't know what she wanted her major to be, so she picked something that she thought would be an easy A. Intro to art history. Little did she know she'd fall in love with the curriculum, her classmates, and the lifestyle. She hadn't been certain of her future before then, but after that class, she knew she wanted to spend her life with artists, creating, having wine-fueled dinner parties, and discussing the works of them. She recalled a phone conversation she had with her mom. She broke it to her that she wanted to major in art. Her mother had warned, that's not a real degree. Julie had probably walked in circles for hours on the phone with her mother, justifying her stance, her passion. She had never been so confident about anything in her life. She remembered saying with her full chest, I'd rather live as a poor artist than die as a financially secure cog in a corporate machine. There was a long silence after she had said that. She could hear her mother thinking. She could hear her over the other line, wanting to be supportive, wanting what was best for her. Okay, her mother finally broke. But maybe consider a minor in business? The relief she had felt at that moment, that her mother had allowed her to dream, to dare to live a life of uncertainty, the romance of it. It made her miss her mother even more. And with me, that kind of certainty is rare and brave, especially at that age. And your mother, she didn't clip your wings. She just asked you to carry a parachute. There's a tenderness in that. Even in disagreement, there. Do you still paint, Julie? Or maybe a better question is, do you still want to? I haven't painted in a long time. I recently tried, but felt frozen. I came here, not sure why exactly. I was hoping coming here would allow an answer to reveal itself, I suppose. Can I say something? I don't think you're stuck. I think you're waiting for your own permission this time. And I think you are very, very close to giving Carrie. She hadn't expected so much so fast. Everything she had hoped to avoid, she had been forced to reconcile within only hours of visiting the museum. She shook out her hands and then rubbed her fingers. She glanced back at Art, who also stood from his chair, a look of concern on his face. She studied the lines of his jaw, the brightness of his blue-green eyes, and his full brows. Maybe her mother was looking down on her from some ethereal plane and had sent this lovely man into her life. Maybe this entire visit, compelled by her loss, was actually, "You've been such a kind ear. I'd love to buy you a coffee or something for your kindness." "Thank you. Like this is enough. You've given more than you know. You opened up, you stayed, you let yourself be seen. That's not nothing. It's rare. Besides, I think if we did sit down for a coffee, I'd just end up asking you 100 more questions. I'd want to know what kind of art you made in college. What kind of music do you listen to when you paint?" Julie was about to reply when the sound of people approaching from the hallway spilled into the room, interrupting her. A small tour group entered the gallery, led by a woman in a smart black blazer and a museum ID badge clipped to her lapel. The group fanned out, facing the glass with a polite confusion. A few teens tilted their heads. A man in cargo pants pointed at Art, as if unsure whether he was supposed to laugh or not. The docent stepped forward and with a bright and practiced tone stated, "This piece is titled Art, capital A-R-T. It was created by the conceptual artist Makiovic. Was intentional." Julie's brow furrowed. She glanced back at the man in the glass box. He hadn't moved. The docent continued, "Art has a few meanings. It is an art piece, but also short for artificial intelligence." Julie glanced back at Art, reset in his sitting position. Makiovic wanted to develop a piece of art that could interact with humans. Most times we witness art. Sometimes we interact with it, but rarely does it interact with us, and usually not on such a magnificent and deceptive scale. Julie took a few steps back, shying away into the corner of the room. A three-dimensional projection on glass, powered by an advanced AI, allows us to ask the question, what perspectives can we gain when art talks back to us? Usually, we look at a piece of art and ascribe meaning to it, but what if the art had the ability to ascribe meaning to its viewer? Julie slid out from the exhibition space, back to the wall, her face red. She only meant... Sorry. 1 second. A little water never hurt anybody. She didn't plan on stopping. She only meant to pass through the garden on her way back to the car. But then she looked up and saw The Couple by Louise Burgess. Suspended by a steel beam, two smooth metallic figures hung in permanent embrace. their circular and faceless features spiraling and intertwined with one another like vines strangling a lattice. They hovered above her like ghosts, together and still alone. Julie stepped beneath them. She thought of her mother, of art, of every person she'd wanted to hold and hadn't. The sculpture wasn't comforting, but it understood something. You never came back. Julie turned to the familiar voice, noticing Barry. He had shed his apron and was extending one hand to her, offering a latte. I'm somewhat of an artist myself, he smiled. His kind eyes brought her back to earth. She looked down at the latte to see a beautifully foamed heart resting atop the coffee. What are you doing later? He said. Back. And you never did. Days later, Julie worked vigorously on her canvas. Her renewed sense of self pulsed through her arm and into her fingers. Every moment, every stroke, had been painting a new future for herself. She had vacuumed her rug and could no longer make out the indentations in the wool. In fact, she rarely thought of them. The crocheted blanket decorated the back of her couch that was now filled with plush toys for her new dog, Rothko. He snoozed quietly in the corner as she mixed the colors on her palette. She had thrown away the Zoloft days ago, never having took one. A knock on the door grabbed the attention of Rothko and herself. She set aside her brushes and opened the door to Barry, his hands full of coffee and pastries for their morning date. Julie took the food from his hands and placed them delicately on the counter as Barry circled her easel. He smiled as Julie joined him from behind. What do you think? I love it, he said, as they both gazed at Julie's smiling self-portrait. It's how I see myself now. All right. That little piece was called AI Art. I think you could probably do a few more drafts of it, but otherwise, yeah. So glad that you stopped by to visit this vertical live stream. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the stories. And if you ever have the opportunity, please stop by my YouTube channel for some longer content, and also my Twitch if you're available. Twitch.tv/Derrick Denicola Writer. Guys, thanks so much for a lovely little writing day and for joining me for some storytelling. It was a really nice pleasure to have the company to do it. So with that being said, thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.